There have been some major mistakes made on my homesteading property, and they're all my fault. About 10 years ago, I discovered my love for gardening and urban farming and realized that I just didn't have enough room in my yard for all the projects I wanted to do. So I bought some land, I built a tiny house to put on it, and now I'm in the process of bringing that homestead dream into reality. Now, I didn't grow up in a homesteading family, so I've been kind of learning some stuff on my own, researching stuff on the internet, I've taken some classes, but at some point you just have to take the leap and try to make it happen. It's just one of those situations where you don't know what you don't know until you try it. Recently, I've made 3 big mistakes on my homestead, and that's what I'm going to talk about today. Whether you're looking to learn from my mistakes or you just want to see what I screwed up, I got you covered. As of the time of this video, the well still isn't functioning yet because I still need to wire it and create a pump house for the above ground components for the well. This will include our filtration system and some of the other accessory units. We have power to the property, so now it's just a matter of running wiring from the top of the well to our electrical box. It should be a relatively easy task, if I'd planned accordingly. Unfortunately, I don't know which conduit runs from the electrical box to that well. Stupid, I know. I have a couple options on how to figure this out. Some people might say just ask the electrician, but he does a lot of work and that was months ago, so I don't expect him to have that information for me. I am in no way blaming my electrician. This is all my fault for not asking this question and planning ahead. My next option is to dig down under my electrical box and trace where the electrical conduit is going. Unfortunately, we've had lots of fires in that area lately, and smoke is making the air quality really bad to breathe right now. So I don't really want to be out there for long periods of time digging by hand. Later in the season, that's an option once the rain starts coming, but not yet. I could also bring out a vacuum and hook it up to one side of the conduit and suck or blow air through the tube. A few tests like this should allow me to figure out which is the correct tube. I'll need to do something like this anyways to fish some string through there when I go to pull the electrical wiring. So that's likely going to be my best bet. When I hired my excavator to put in my water line, he suggested we put in a hose pipe as well, which was a great idea that I hadn't thought of. Unfortunately, I hadn't yet planned on where I wanted to put the pump house in relation to that new plumbing. I'm going to draw this out so you guys can see what I'm talking about. So I have a well that's about here, and the tiny house is right here. So from the well, there's piping that's already buried that comes up to here, and then there's basically a T-fitting, and one of them comes down here, and that's for the hose. And the other line comes right here, and that's the inlet for the tiny house itself. Now the problem we have is that there's not enough space right here to put the pump house where it doesn't interfere with my septic system that's right above it. Which means the only real place that I could put a pump house right now is right here. The problem with this is that the pump house is where I plan on putting my filtration unit for my water. And mainly I need that for drinking water. I don't really need that for the water that's coming out of my hose for watering the garden. So if I have my pump house right here, that means all the water that's coming through it is getting filtered, both for the house and for the hose there. Now that is all on me. I should have had this planned out before giving it to my excavator to execute. He did exactly what I wanted and went above and beyond, and I should have come up with a better plan on where to put that pump house before we even got started. The filtration unit I wanted to use is kind of bulky, so I wanted to locate it inside of the pump house instead of in the tiny house because we're already stretched for space in there as it is. I haven't figured out a good solution for this yet, so if you have some ideas for me, let me know in the comments below in this video. The third mistake I made has to do with our road. When I had this thing built, I didn't request that they put down a barrier underneath the gravel layer. After just a few months of us not being out there, several plants have grown straight up through the road and the pad that was cleared for our building area. Luckily, most of them only have one deep taproot, which makes them somewhat easy to remove. However, this is just going to be an ongoing issue now that I wish I would have thought of beforehand. In hindsight, it feels like I should have thought about these things in advance, but when it's your first time doing this, mistakes happen. So in summary, plan out your pump house location prior to running your water line from your well. Also, be sure you know which conduit is running to which part of the property. And when building a road, be sure to put down a weed barrier to ensure it doesn't get overgrown. Hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel for more of my projects and updates on the homestead.